We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Todd Kuckkahn. What kind of business are you building? Well, he says people need to work from the inside out for personal growth. Their core values, life strengths, differences that makes them better, comfort, DISC, D-I-S-C. What does that mean? He's a passionate leader and growth, and it earned him become an independent speaker, coach, teacher, trainer, and he was certified with the John Maxwell Team. Throughout his career, Todd has done countless presentations, workshops, seminars at local, state, national, and international conferences. He's passionate about sharing these experiences and knowledges in communication, leadership, and that personal growth, corporate culture, and nonprofits. He's also DISC certified. We've got to find out what that means. And writes for numerous publications, including international publication. He's also been certified as a DEI, trainer for diversity, equality, inclusion through the empowerment of living. But bottom line of it is right there in that opening statement there, life is an inside out job, isn't it, Todd? Welcome to the show.
No question about it. We have to put our oxygen mask on first before we can help others and help our team. So that's part of what I teach and talk about.
100% is that we're so conditioned by society's expectation and dictation is that everything seems to be a facade. Only if we look like this, only if we sound like this, only if we do this, only if we drive that, only if our house is that, are we deemed important or that anyone will listen to us. And really, when you talk about fake news, that is it. You're not representing yourself. You're representing an illusion or a delusion of yourself. So taking the inside out job, which does require you to take that life's journey, doesn't it? But then you become so much more authentic and people believe you and want to work with you because it's coming from the core of you.
The social media has not done us any help in creating this facade and creating that life is always beautiful and perfect and sunny on the beach and riding the horses in the woods and all these things. And I think
make your million in the first month.
Right. Yeah. 7 figures in the first month. Yeah, I've seen those too. I get plenty of LinkedIn messages about that. But it's really about us from the inside. And I think what we have to focus on is ourselves as our competition. If we try to compete with all this crap in the world, all this stuff in the world and junk, we're never going to succeed, and it's going to impact our mental health. So I think we just need to compete with ourselves and try to be better every day, every week, every month, and every year.
Yes. Look to everyone else, the finger pointing. It's the government, it's corporations, it's society. Well, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you saying, no, it's you, right? You want a better life, you want more productive life, you want a more meaningful life, you want to stand for something, you want to accomplish something. You've got to be willing to do the work to get there.
It's so simple for people to point their fingers at somebody else that creates their problem or their attitude, right?
Yes.
And the one thing I've learned over the years is that you determine your attitude. Nobody else makes you whatever emotion you're expressing, right? It's who you are and how you decide to handle that situation. And again, that rotates back to that inside out thing, how you're handling yourself, how you handle all the change and uncertainty. We've had a little bit of change and uncertainty in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, but it's not going to change, is it? We'll have it tomorrow. We'll have it again next week, next month, next year. It's going to always be there. So it's how we handle those situations and how we handle our attitude that's so critical.
I mean, life is a roller coaster, and it's a question of how you ride it. And you have the lulls where you can catch your breath, and then it's like, oh, here we go again. But with each roll, it doesn't have to be traumatizing or out of your element. It's that we learn how to manage our lives when we come from more of an authenticity to who we really are and what we're really here to do.
That's what's really helped me in my career, and we can dive into this too. I've been fired on 4 different occasions, so I know those peaks and valleys. And yeah, you get on top of that peak, and you look over the top of that roller coaster down the railing there, and it's like, oh my gosh, here I go. But you know what? There's an uptick,
Yes,
right? You're
yes.
going to hit that bottom. You're going to come out, and again, really focusing on who you are and why you are, rather than what you are, I think can really make a big difference in getting through those times.
And getting off the roller coaster and finding something that has more of a wave to it rather than the extremes to it. I think we're drawn to the extremes when we're young, because we know, oh, I'm going to challenge that, I'm going to do that. And we think that we have all the answers and all the energy and all the enthusiasm in the world until we realize that this roller coaster, is making me feel nauseous. That actually a nice wave is so much better.
It takes a lot of energy to go up and down all those hills. Exactly right. And as you get more mature, and for people like me, it took me a long time to become mature, but it starts balancing out, leveling it. You're always going to have them, but as you learn more, and again, as you focus on who you are, how you can help yourself, and then be a better leader, and then take that and work with your team, whether your team is one person or whether your team is 1,000 people. But it's through that process, and really relying on others too. The having a group of people, having your inner circle of people too that you can rely on to help you through a lot of those peaks and valleys is so critical too. Who are the people? Jim Rohn says, who are the 5 people that are most important, closest to you in your life? A lot of times it isn't necessarily your family, but you need those people to help you as you grow inside out. You need people on the outside to help you along the way and share their experiences with you, so they can help you get through those, and maybe get through them quicker than they did because they've already experienced them as well.
I say inspiration begets invitation. So when
I
someone
love
inspires you, it invites you to go, well, if they can, maybe it's in me. And I think every time we're knocked down, instead of going, why me, and wallowing in the, it's like, okay, I've been knocked down. How do I get back up? What do I need to learn to be able to stand strong so I won't get knocked down again? And every single time that we are knocked about, we learn from it and we become stronger. We discover our strength, our courage, our abilities, our skills. And every single one of those is something that makes you the person that you are. Because quite honestly, we're all leaders in our own lives. So what kind of leader are you of your own life first?
And again, when you think of fail, and you said it so well, as you were talking, I was thinking about when you fail, you learn. That's the only time you learn. If you think back to when you were a toddler learning how to walk, how many times did you fall on your behind before you finally could take those steps and get somewhere, and then you ran and so on? Sometimes we forget about that, and we think life should be easier on us. But you look at some of the most famous inventions in the world. Thomas Edison, claims to have failed 10,000 times. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. You look at sports figures, some of the best sports figures in the world, like a Michael Jordan in the basketball world. He missed at least 50% of the shots he took.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at great baseball players, they only hit the ball 1 out of 3 times. So fail is part of our life. If we choose to learn from it, that's how we're going to get that growth so much quicker. And again, we can rely on other people to help us through some of that.
The success of finally hitting the ball is so illuminating, so uplifting, that you forget all the times that you didn't hit the ball. And, the challenge then, can I hit it again like that? And you may go through a number of missing the balls before you hit it again. And I think when we do hit that ball out of the ballpark, so to speak, it becomes of like, I can do this. I can do this. And if I can do this, I can do it again, or I can do something else. And I think that propels us forward. And we kind of forget about all the times that we didn't hit it out, right? Until we don't hit it out again.
A great lesson is I have a 10-year-old grandson who plays all sports, but he plays baseball. And watching him this summer and watching his teammates, he would get a hit and his eyes would light up like any kids would.
Yes.
But when he didn't get a hit, when he struck out or grounded out and didn't get to first base, he walked back to the dugout, right? He handled it, knew he'd get another chance. some of the kids, they'd be kicking the dirt and they'd
Yeah.
throw their bat, and it's how you handle it. And I think some of that does develop at an early age, but kicking the dirt and throwing the bat never makes you a better batter, just
Yeah.
like in life, right? Getting angry, you need to control your attitude and kind of tighten your belt a notch tighter, or tighten your shoestrings a little bit tighter, and just say, hey, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to move on. And it's easy, it's simple to say. It is hard to do, but again, if you really work on yourself and look at your core values of who you really are and what's foundational to you, that can take you so much farther.
I have a 17 months today, 17-month-old grandson. First time grandparent, which I waited
I
a
love
long
it.
time for this, right?
Yeah.
And when you are a parent, like my daughter said, how did you do this with 3? And I said, I don't know, you just did it. You were automatic all the time, right? You just did it. But now being able to kind of sit back and observe my grandson, and spend time with him and watch him in his discovery, watch him as he learns things, watch his expression as something kind of triggers in his mind, watch him fall down and then be so proud he got back up again. It is so absolutely wonderful. But I think if we in our own self-discovery want to know, how do I take that step? Why don't you look at our beautiful youth and watch how they discover? Because we did it back then, and we could do it again in that way with the same enthusiasm as they have.
Yeah, it is great and refreshing watching young kids, how they just battle through it. It's not a big deal. If adults would stay out of their way,
Yes.
they'd probably be able to do that for the rest of their lives. But we get in the way and kind of mess things up for them. But yeah, it's very true in life too. And you do need people along the way, but it just you fight through it, you battle through it. I had to tell my family, my wife, my kids, my parents, that I was, fired on 4 different occasions, and it was part of, I don't want to say part of life, because you never want that, but it's just, okay, it happened. Now what I'm going to do next? I can't fret. I can't get angry. I can't send nasty letters. I have to pick myself up and get back on the internet, figure out where I can work next, reach out to my network, and just do it.
But I always just call that a redirect. It's kind of the universe telling you that chapter is over. You can't go any further there. You need to step off it and go into something else. And you're right, you did it 4 times, but each one of those is experiences that you've had that you wouldn't have had you stayed in the first one.
Yeah, exactly. I learned a great deal along the way. I learned a lot about myself, actually through, and you can imagine learning through those experiences. Matter of fact, one of them I ended up delivering, and I'm in my 50s. Not now, I'm older than that, but when this happened, I was in my 50s, and I ended up delivering USA Today newspapers at 4 o'clock in the morning just to make a few bucks to help us make ends meet. We have 4 daughters, and that's why my hair is the color the way it is. But we
3 kids.
Yeah, but you just kind of figure out, you got to do what you got to do, use your time wisely, and figure it out. And I reached out to other people who I knew could help me, and who knew who I really was,
right?
Not this person that was fired for whatever reason. So
yeah,
you always hear about burning your bridges. That's an expression. That's why whenever I left someplace, I always left, even if the terms were bad in my end, I still left in good terms. It wasn't like I went out on social media and blasted the people or the company. It's happened. It's past. It's over. And there may be some point in it, and it's happened, where I've gone back to people and they've been, yeah, you know what, Todd, you handled that so well when it happened. I'd love to help you. What can I do for you? So it all pays off.
We are our own business card, right? And how we present ourselves in every aspect of life is how we should present ourselves in business as well. And when people feel, I like you, I like what you stand for, I like who you are as a person, I want to do business with you, as opposed to some glittering advertising and flash this and flash that and empty words. The hollow words. We've got very, very in tune to the hollow words. Person is speaking, they're saying all the right things, but there's no connection to it. When somebody speaks from that connection and they really are it, they're not just saying it, you want to be around this person, you want to work with this person, because they've got their doo-doo together.
No, I haven't heard that expression in a while, but I was thinking back to a breakfast, not because you said doo-doo, but I was thinking back to a breakfast I had with a very good friend of mine. Actually, the person responsible for me really getting into this leadership lane and doing what I'm doing. And after we had breakfast, we met for about an hour and a half. And we talked about our faith some as well. And he just said, Todd, he said, it's just so great having breakfast with you because you're so authentic and real. And that's, I'm sure I learned that from my parents as a younger kid and growing up from other people. It's like, you're not going to win by being something you're not.
Right.
So why not be who you are, be authentic and be real, be vulnerable, right? And, I tell people some things and they probably wonder why I tell them, but I want people to know me for who I am. Again, not my title or what I'm doing, but who I am and what's really on that inside, what makes me tick. And it gets back to, I mentioned before the core values, those foundational things to who I am. So that's what's important.
And that, authenticity of who you are without apology, right? Without apology. I am what I am, as Popeye says, right? That is what it draws people to it because they see a resonance of themselves in there, or, I can drop this facade that I need for everyone else and just be myself. And isn't that really what we want to be in life? We just want to go through life, learning, experiencing, and just applying it to self so we can grow and be ourselves. As they say, everybody else is taken. Why are we trying to be someone else?
Well, and you don't have to have a good memory to be yourself.
No.
If you're trying to put on a facade or trying to be
Yes.
something you're not, you have to have a really good memory about what you said about yourself. So why not just be yourself? Why not just tell the truth and be honest about who you are? When I get up and speak, often I'll ask the question, okay, how many of you have been fired once? Raise your hands. And there's a big chunk of the audience that raises their hands. All right, how about 2 times? And there's still a few, and 3 times. Yeah, and how about 4 times? And usually there's 1 or 2 other people. And then I'll go on to say, look, we've all survived this, right? So let's just continue to be who we are, and let's be real about it. Let's fight through it. Let's find some people that can help us, and let's move on in our lives.
The people that are going to help you are the people that see you from the inside out and help you to see yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're not there to do it for you. They're not there to even draw the picture, but they're there to draw out of you the essence of who you really are.
And that's the right kind of people you want to be around, not to tell you who or what you are, but to help you facilitate it. Or, in the coaching world, that's part of what you should be doing as a coach. You shouldn't be telling people. You're not a mentor.
Yeah.
You're helping draw out from them who they are and what they are. And that's going to make it so much easier for them, throughout their life, throughout that process. And they can get through those peaks and valleys, however high they are. That's why with children, sometimes I have to nudge my daughter a little bit when she's being a mom to my grandson and say, just it's okay if he fails a little bit. Let him learn through that. That's, you can't always be there to catch him or, hold him up. I mean, it's fine if you do, but he has to learn through this process too.
Yes. Yes, but my little grandson tries to push the parents' buttons. And sometimes they think kind of that behavior is kind of cute. And then grandma comes along and, he'll stand on this railing that he's not meant to stand on. And he'll look at me and he'll know, right? And he's pushing the button. So I just pick him up without saying a word, put him on a chair in the corner and walk away and ignore him. And he's like, hang on, that didn't get the reaction I wanted.
Yeah, that's right. They're always looking right. And that's funny because my grandson does the same thing with my wife, with his grandma. He will push her buttons. And the other night he actually said, after a little while, he could see that grandma was getting upset. And he said, "Oh, grandma, you know me, I'm just teasing you, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And it's kind of fun to watch.
Mm. I think that to be a good leader is to make leaders out of other people. It's not to lead and lord. It's to lead and inspire leadership.
Yeah, step aside. I do a lot of posting on social media, good stuff, not the junky stuff.
Well, not what you ate yesterday.
and there was a post about that. A good leader will hire people that are more talented than he or she is.
Yes.
And then let them do their jobs. And I think you're exactly right there. Let them grow, let them learn. I've never been a micromanaging type of person. I'll give people a responsibility. I'll always be there to help them
Yeah.
if they need it. But even if they need it or think they need it and come for help, I'll still, as you mentioned before, kind of talk them through and facilitate the answer, because they have the answer in themselves. They're just not confident enough. Yeah, they're just not confident enough to express it. And where I've had the better teams, I've let those people do their things, and we've just really skyrocketed with what we achieved. And a good leader, provide the support, but just step out of the way, let your people do their jobs, help when you need to, and provide some vision, some goals out there.
I'm always drawing the metaphor of we're here to discover what our instrument is, learn how to play it, and then find the orchestra in which to play it in, that you can play collectively, harmoniously.
I love that. That is, yeah, that gets back to the inside out thing, right?
Yes.
Learn what you can do best, and then find the team that you can do it best with. And all boats rise in a high tide. Everybody's going to perform so much better if that's what you're focusing on.
And then, the conductor will know where your strength is and where to bring you out, and when that solo is for you, and when you are their background for others, because the conductor can see the individuality, but how you play collectively. Because leadership isn't about standing, separately from people. It's how to bring people together collectively, but as individuals that can be collective.
And so often I've worked with different, a lot of different businesses. I'm sure you have as well. And you see those leaders who are just trying to control, I guess is the best word. And that's the worst thing you can possibly do. And I think leaders, yeah, exactly. I think leaders sometimes get nervous because if someone does show that they're maybe quote unquote smarter than them, that'll be seen as a weakness. But
yes.
I think when you pull that out of people and then you celebrate their success, people are going to think a lot more of you than if you're trying to constantly take the credit and spread out the blame. As a real leader, you need to give the credit and you need to take the blame. If things aren't working well, it's your fault as a leader. You need to figure out how to improve that and grow that. And the best way to do that is talk to your employees. Where can we improve? How can we be better? Yeah. So it's leadership is a huge challenge, and unfortunately, there's not enough people that get it.
I think we're most certainly in that transition of understanding that the more you build someone up, the more it benefits the whole company, the whole business, right? I'm a 70s chick, so that's when I was in the 20s, and I was living in South Africa at the time.
Oh, wow.
And there was a lot of misogyny going on at that time. And I worked for I got fired 2 or 3 times by my bosses to have then the company leaders offer me my boss's job.
Oh, jeez.
Now, I didn't want the boss's job. I just want the bosses to do the work. And I was always in kind of customer service sales. And because I listened to people and what they wanted, or I could see what they want when they didn't know what they wanted. That was my forte. I'd go back to my boss and say, we need to do this for them. No. It's good enough doing this or doing that. And then when they wouldn't listen, when we're at the round table, I'd bring it up. Why didn't you bring it up? And it was never my intent to get them fired. Right. But and I never wanted their jobs and I never accepted them. But I realized what I was a bit of a disruptor of the old paradigm and switching into your client is whom you are serving. Yeah. Right. The client serves the company by the best way that you serve the client. It's not the company doing a favor for the client. Without the client, what is the company? And if you're not going to listen to your clients and nurture them into what they need and to be as best as they can be, then how can it serve you?
And we have a business in the Midwestern United States, and actually they're bigger. They've really been growing. It's called Culver's. It's a notch above a fast food type place. And the owner, I had him come up and speak in our community, and he was talking about how we have to take care of employees, because if we take care of employees, they'll take care of the clients or the customers.
Yes.
If we're not taking care of our employees, who's going to take care of the customer then? So, yeah. And it was like, one of those things where you smack yourself in the side of the head. It's like, well, duh, why didn't I think of that? Right. Yeah. Well, he's the CEO of a major company. That's why, yeah. He is where he is. But it's so true that if you're not taking care of those people that you work with and work around you, they're not going to take care of the people that you're serving, whether it's a widget or a service or whatever it might
Right.
be.
People plan it for profit, not profit at the cost of people and planet.
Well, say that again. I like that.
People plan it for profit, not
Okay.
profit at the expense of planet and people.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And
That's
when you nurture the people that are working with you, and
with
they are then giving their very best to the clientele. Why do the clientele want to go anywhere else? They want to continue doing business with you because the people that are serving them, they're building a relationship. It becomes less of a business transaction and more of a relationship and an extended family. And if you can have a business that's a family where they feel this is 8 hours of my day where I feel at home, I feel valued, I feel worthy, I feel I can grow or I appreciate it. Why would they want to go anywhere else? And they're going to be loyal and they're going to continue to work because of that appreciation.
You said something and kind of quickly, and it really hit home with me. And you said when people work with you, not
Yes.
not for you. And
Yes.
my oldest daughter, I caught saying that once, and I said, "Wait a minute, sweetheart. let me help you understand this a little bit better." So we kind of taught. You're always working, whether you're the CEO or whether you're the frontline worker on the assembly line or whatever the case might be. You're always working with people. If you develop that for you people or for people, that attitude, you're going to have a pretty tough life in the business world.
I call them the ivory towers.
Yes.
They're up
Yes.
in their ivory tower. That show, what is it? Undercover Boss,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
where, they get into work and they really find out what's going on and really the struggles and the sacrifices of their people, and it changes everything because the bigger a company can get and the higher they're up in their ivory tower, the more attached they are to the workings of their company. And I think if you always want to make that company feel like a family, you've got to get down there on that ground floor, speak to the people, what's needed. They know better than you
They're
what
right
is
there.
needed, right? They're working it all the time. We need better machinery. We should do it this way. We should do it that way. The more you listen and appreciate their contribution, you're giving them respect of the value that they're putting in.
That brought an example back to my mind. I was working with a company, and it took me 4 months to convince their executive leadership team that the company should create a culture team to work on the corporate culture in that company. The executive team was worried about it, but they weren't sure how to go about it. So I recommended this to them. Well, their fear was that they might learn something about themselves
Yes.
and the way they were doing their jobs from the people who know what's going on in the business. So it was we got it approved, and they were worried. We wanted 20 people to represent across the company. They were worried, what if we only get 5? Well, we ended up that 40 people applied for these 20 positions on this culture team. And we took the culture team, in through a whole process of team building. And then we started working on the values of the company and worked on the culture. Well, later on, then the executive team came in and facilitated some of the discussions that the culture team was having. And after it was done, the executive team stayed back and they were like, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing." I learned more than an hour and a half than I learned my entire career here.
Yes.
And it's just, listening, and it's not comfortable. It's not easy because we're afraid that, we're going to be criticized personally, and everybody just wants the company to do better.
Right.
Because they know if it does, it'll be a place they want to work and profits go up and all that. So, but yeah, sometimes the executive leadership, it has a little bit of trouble, the willingness to open up and get in the trenches and see what's really going on.
Yes, and the more they do, the better it will be. I think as humans, we're absolutely petrified of judgment and persecution. And as a society, we've stepped into judgment and persecution one-on-one. I mean, social media, judging. There was the other day a picture of Melania and Jill wearing an outfit, and they criticized Jill for wearing the outfit. And and I hold on here, folks. Hold on here. It's let us look what's inside the outfit. Let us look what's inside the outfit. If somebody makes a faux pas on what they've worn that day, we all do it. All right. But this whole judgment business, and that really comes from a place of insecurity. When people are insecure within themselves, they're going to look at faults or perceived faults everywhere else, so they don't have to look at their own.
It's exactly right. And you know, that people, yeah, exactly. Because they figure if I can tear this person down,
Yes.
that'll elevate me above them.
Yeah.
Because I'll tear them down enough. And what a backwards way of thinking about things. Because I've seen so many examples where I've helped build people up. I'm sure you have too, Sarah. You know, you build other people up and they bring you right along with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you have to have that attitude, that care, that kind of, you know, that servant leadership, caring more about others than you do about yourself. And like you said too, building other leaders, you know, all those attitudes are so healthy. Yet there are people that don't get. It's like you want to grab them kind of by the shoulders and shake them a little bit. Like, come on,
Yes.
you got to see this. You got to
Let
see what you're
yourself
doing.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That'd create a whole other set of problems, right?
Yes.
Take them too hard. Right?
Lawsuits.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can see that coming.
I'm a True Colors coach, the Myers-Briggs. Are you familiar with the True Colors?
Yes, I am.
The personality traits? And I
Yep.
discovered that 21 years ago, and it was an eye-opener for me. And I used it in my coaching program, which was just helping people identify the personality traits. So that's how they're going to interact. It's also how they receive information. But I also had a view of life where I take people through a metaphoric journey, and it shows me where they're shut off, where they're open, where they're afraid, and all of that. So that was my program at the time. But the True Colors I find is so helpful to the individual, because if we understand what our human personality trait is, I receive information this way. If that person's saying it that way, it doesn't connect. And if we know our colors, and I'm a screaming blue, screaming blue. And if I know I'm talking to a gold, I've got to talk to them in a language they're going to understand, because my screaming blue is far too far out there for them. And if I'm talking to a green, I've got to talk in facts. I've got to talk in something that is tangible for them. And if I'm talking to an orange, it's how can they profit out of it? So it's knowing these personality traits for me has certainly been very, very helpful in my own self-discovery, because I realized they're not being rude or offensive towards me. They're just not getting me because I'm not speaking their language.
It's almost like you sat in the audience when I've talked about DISC, D-I-S-C, because
Yes.
it's a very similar thing to the Myers-Briggs, only it's letters and people understanding who they are. And I had a real interesting. I did a workshop for a IT business down in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the southeast part of our state. And we were going, you know, everybody shared what their style was. We talked a little bit about that, had some fun. And then we went around, you know, talked about strengths and weaknesses. And this one guy, it was a 2-hour session. And this was the first time this team had been together face to face, because there were several changes during COVID. There was a new CIO brought in who actually brought me in to do this. So it was their first time sitting down in a room where they were all actually face to face with each other. There were several new hires there. And this one gentleman, closer to me in age than the others, he said, when I was a kid, I used to be bullied. And he said it was a real hard time for me. And he talked briefly about that. And he said, now I really understand better the people who are working around me, that they're really not bullies. They're just a D, which is a dominant driver personality style. And I can better, now that I can understand who they are and know who I am, I can really work a lot better with folks now. It was like this big epiphany that came out of something that was tragic for him when he was a kid in terms of being bullied. And that's whether it's a Myers-Briggs or whether it's DISC, whatever, True Colors, those are all great in revealing that.
I want to know what the rest of the disc means.
The I is inspiring, the S is steady, and the C is compliant. So I'm an I personality style. I'm, the outgoing, gregarious kind of person, and I'm opposite on the spectrum of a C. So there was a gal in our office, young lady, who was a C, and I'd go in Monday morning and I'd talk about my weekend with my grandson and the Packer football team and the Badgers sports team, the college team, and all this, and she'd be like laser focused on her laptop, and I'm thinking like, come on, what's going on here? Well, I knew her personality style was a C, and they're very much driven on data and getting things done. And I'm like, I want to have fun, right? So I had two choices. I could walk out of that office and say, boy, Kayla's really a BIT, you know what, today, or I can walk out and say, hey guys, Kayla's trying to get this report done for us.
Just leave
Let's
her
make
alone.
sure we're answering the phone,
Yeah.
getting the door, and let's not bother her. And that's it's a it's a simplistic answer, but or a scenario, but it's so true. And it's like what you said before, it's understanding and respecting other people's styles. You don't have to become the other person's
No.
style. You just have to respect
And change your
that
language
person's
sometimes
style.
when you're
Yeah,
speaking to them. Yeah. I
yeah,
want to actually look at this: dominant, inspiring, steady, and compliant.
right.
So when you look at the dominant, I would actually look at the orange there. They're incredibly dominant in their persona, in the way they are as
Sure.
a generally, bigger than life personality, and they
Yeah,
can dominate a room,
yeah,
inspiring, other people. But I would put into the blues because they're always seeing possibilities. They're always seeking the opportunity. They're always seeing, the sunny side of the street. The
yeah.
steady, I would look at um, probably, I don't know, the steady and the compliant would be either the green and the gold. I would say the gold probably compliant, the C compliant, because they really do like systems, rules,
Yeah,
regulations,
yep,
know where they're
yep,
at. And the steady as you go, that is, the green, where they need the facts and the figures, and they're the people to kind of, they're the blueprinters. They know how to put that blueprinter together. But it is methodical. So it is like steady as they go. So I would draw that comparison to that.
and you need to have all those styles, right? You need
Yes.
to have all of them. I think
Yes. We do
statistically,
have
I
all
think
of them at different levels, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly, and I think statistically, the D population is about 10% of all. If everybody in the world took it, 10% would be Ds, which is probably a good thing because if there were many more Ds in the world, it might drive all of us crazy.
Right.
And about I think about 70% are the S's, the steady ones, the people interested in teamwork. They'll get the job done. Just bring me along. I'm going to be a team player. So, and then the remainder are the I's and C's. But you do need a mix on it.
Mhm.
And some businesses, like if you're in IT, probably a little bit more heavy with the C's and the S's
Mhm.
than the I's.
Yes.
But you need a little bit of everybody
Yeah.
to make a good team. You need that good balance.
Yeah. Um, and then, again, it's knowing kind of where you're at. It doesn't mean, no, no, you're wrong to
Right.
be that strong personality. That is who you are. It is now, well, how do I use it? Like if I'm a dominant personality, I've got to be careful I don't become overbearing to
Right.
certain people,
Right.
because I could be in their face and I could make them feel small. How can I dominate and be incentive to people to want them to rise up? And the same with inspiring. Are you talking about an inspiration that they can connect to? Or is it too far out there that it's just la la land, right?
Yes.
And standing and kind of steadfast. It's that steady as you go. Do you respect the methodical steps that they're taking, of the routing and the making sure that everything is sturdy? And we need that, because we don't have that. We don't have a foundation. And then the compliant, those are the ones that just tell me what to do and I will do it, and I respect my job and I will do it well, right?
Right.
Because
Yep.
they'll be compliant to it. So, I think that is, we all have that in us. It's just a question, what's our dominance? And, for me, I would say probably the inspiration and the blue. Uh, but I was drawn to the dominance because the dominants can see things. They have an ability to see the possibilities like the blues do. Blues and the inspirers are generally seeing it how it serves man. Dominance can be, how does it serve me? So that's what they've got to be careful of.
Oh, I like that. That's an interesting way of looking at that. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it's I've had a chance to do a lot of these, and it's always interesting. And they start kind of like, okay. And I've never in doing all these the assessment only takes like 15 minutes. And doing all these assessments, nobody's ever said these are wrong. Now maybe they don't agree with one or two of the
Right.
things, but basically they agree with everything. I had one guy who said that the report was not, it was a bunch of bunk. It wasn't true. Then he had his wife read it, and his wife said, "Oh, Gordon, this is just like you."
Yeah.
So he wasn't willing to accept who he was, but thankfully his wife was there to bring him back down and go through it. But it's amazing what you can learn for it. I've also seen it used, and I don't know if I would do this, but some companies will, like on the person's door, they'll put their personality style. But I almost think that's like, a scarlet letter kind of bad thing
Yeah,
that they,
yeah.
it's like you start pointing at people and accusing them of being something rather than figuring out how to make it work.
But there's many, many companies, including the military and everything, that use the true colors, and it's used a lot in hiring, because what they want to make
Oh yeah.
sure is that it is cohesive in the team that you're building. And you can't have dominant colors. Really, what you want is to make sure you have the right amount of each color in there so
Yep.
that they complement and inspire each other, and there isn't any one that kind of dominates. So really, as a rule, you can't have more than one D or orange in there because they're enough
Yeah, that's
on their
right.
own, right?
Yeah, again, that's why thankfully there's only 10% of the people in the
Yeah,
world that are that style. Because yeah, it would drive us probably crazy. They're good to have around, but if you have too many, yeah,
yeah.
it could be a tenuous
I was
situation.
married to one, and they're very charming, and they can talk themselves out of any trouble. So, hence X.
Yes, yeah, yeah. There you go. I hear you.
I think, that this inside out job, and people kind of, well, how do I do it? And all of that. And I think one of the things you have to do is it's okay to surrender. It's okay to let go of all of this illusion of other people's opinion of you, or even the opinion you have of yourself. Really just surrender and allow yourself to be a blank canvas. And then through programs like this, through other people helping you to see yourself, create your own picture of how you feel. I think if people are only thinking, there's too much other outside chatter. But
Yeah.
when you start to feel your knowledge, which I call the knowingness, knowing what you know when you need to know it, no need to verify, justify, validate, or anything else, then you know you're in the truth. That's the core truth. And if we could surrender to everything we have been and all the influence from the outside and basically start again with a blank canvas, it's much easier.
Yeah, and I've never been against the. I mean, obviously, losing your job, you're against the wall, but I've never been against the wall in a, uh, you know, mental health depression sort.
Mhm.
So I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that there are always people out there that will help,
Yes,
and that's you can't or shouldn't let the despair get to the point where you don't feel you can reach out, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's a family member, whether it's someone at your workplace, whether it's your church, your civic organization, a
the
nonprofit.
podcasts that have all these people like yourself leading the way. So, right?
Well, yeah, I think there are people, and you just trying to get that energy built up to reach out to somebody, because there are people out there that
Yeah.
do want to help people. I mean, there's hotlines, of course, as well, and I think that we all really have important messages to share,
Hmm.
and we all should share our message as best we can. The more we keep it bottled up, we talk about the inside out, but like you said, we need to let that go, let that out, and let other people understand who we
Exterior.
are.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we need to see that shift happen in the workplace. Workplaces don't typically like to talk about things like core values,
Mm.
or in some cases even personality styles. But I really think that's where we've come to. People, whether they're whoever they are, need support from other people, and some of that has to start happening in the workplace, and particularly with the challenges that the workplace is facing and people wanting meaningful engagement. There's this shift now in the workplace from the management style to the leadership style, like we've kind of talked about, and where I think that inside out needs to start happening in the workplace as well, and really helping businesses create the kind of culture where, if I have to work, I love working here. I mean, I'd love
Yeah.
not to have to work, but
Yeah.
if I'm going to work, I really want to work because my company cares about what's inside me, not just the fact I can produce a widget or produce a service
Right.
for them.
I think, the last 2.5 years of the pandemic and so many people having to work from home and then meetings being by Zoom, I actually think, like it did with talk show hosts and TV shows, I think it brought out more the honesty and dropped the facade a great deal. People are here head and shoulders. That you're actually staring more at their face than you would be across from a desk or around a table.
Yeah.
And it was more, and they're in their own environment, so they're feeling more relaxed in their own environment. And I think it shifted and brought out more of a need for that honesty, a need for that. You know what? I don't want to come into the office 5 days a week. I'll come in 2 or 3 days and I want to work at home for the rest. Is that okay? As long as the work's getting done.
That's right.
Yeah. And so many companies now have had to shift to the way business has been conducted in the past. And I think if they don't shift, they'll fold. And if
Yes.
you do shift, and ask, this everybody's navigating in a blind spot here right now. What works? And okay, yeah, but I do want you in the office a couple of days a week for any kind of meetings, interactions, or this or that. That's fine, and work with your people and
Figure out the right formula. Yeah.
figure out the right formula because so many businesses have pivoted now and have to pivot in order to stay alive. And but I also look at it as a good sign because it needed to.
Well, you think about, and this just kind of came to me while you were talking, and think about, when you're on a Zoom call and a kid or a pet walks on in the screen or there's some, little, and think about the reaction of the people is all, they're like, they kind of smile,
Yes.
or they point or they wave. And that's the human side of us. That's
Yes.
the inside out again. So,
Yes.
but that needs to happen regardless of being on Zoom. And that's why if you show in the workplace, like I know when you interview people, you can't ask them how many kids they have or how old they are. But as part of it, when you're a part of the workplace, why not have some time to share and really understand who your teammates are? And some of that can come out through a DISC personality assessment, or, I do core values work and a lot of other things that can bring those things out in the workplace and make it more meaningful,
Yeah.
right? To be there. The people truly care about me, not just what I produce.
We want people to look upon it as a career choice, not just a job.
Right. Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
just a job, it's until something better comes along. I put in my hours and I go home. But if it's a career, it's something I'm proud of. It's something I'm willing to give myself off, right? Whether I want to grow in it or I just want to stay in this position, I'm happy to be there. And I think that's a totally different mindset to than just, I've just got a job.
And then if you take it even one level further than the career, where it becomes your calling,
Yes.
where it's really what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
and you can see how you can change the world, so to speak, and you can really impact others. And that's what I really liked about what I've been doing full time the last year or so, is where I feel like it's more of a calling where I can, have conversations with you here, and maybe we'll impact a couple people. I bet we will.
Yes.
But just looking at it from that regard, and really a calling and something that I enjoy doing, whether it's speaking in front of a business or in front of a group of people or whatever it is, just kind of sharing my message. And I realize that my message isn't going to impact everybody, but I know it is going to impact people. And people have told me that. So I'm trying not to be, bragging about it.
No, it's not brag. It's standing in your truth.
I know. I mean, I have.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's as simple and as complicated as that.
But we, a lot about ego, I, me. But, I look at the I slightly differently. I need to take ownership and responsibility for my own choices and actions.
Yes.
I can't bring me or I to the we unless I've got myself in order.
Yeah.
Right. So people get confused because they're told the I is ego and it means you're being selfish. But if you're not an abundant I, if you're not an enriched I, your cup can't runneth over. It can't share with everyone else. So we want you to be a part of that collective energy, but as your beautiful I.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And people need to see different types of people and different eyes, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important that we get out and share as much as we can, whether it's our office mate or our neighbor or whoever the case might be, but sharing that eye, getting to that point, really can make a huge difference.
You want to know that if people bump to you in the street or anywhere else, or you end up at the same party, that the person you are at work, even though you have your work hat on, right, business hat on, that you are at core the same person.
Yes.
Because otherwise, God, that's totally different to the person I work with. And it's like, then they start to distrust you. right? Because you're not representing yourself
It gets back,
truly and honestly.
right. It gets back to that being authentic and
Yeah.
being who you are. That's what people can read through fake really quick.
Mm.
I mean, they
Especially
can,
now. We've had
yeah.
so much fakeness out there in the last few years that we can
We have
smell it a
way too
mile
many,
away.
we have way too many examples of fakeness out there
Yeah,
to know
way
better,
too
right?
much. But
But yeah,
then
people,
that was the reason for it.
yep.
The reason why we had so much of what's going on right now, fake and um, delusionment and disconnect is to show us where the great big hole is and what we need to do to fill it. And it's not up to anybody else to do it. It's up to us. We want to see change, we've got to be change. We want to see peace, we have to be peace. We want to see love in the world, we've got to be the love.
That's almost verbatim what Martin Luther King said many years ago, that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think when we get to that point, we'll be a lot better off. I like to challenge people at the end of my presentations, just commit one intentional act of kindness.
Yes.
I don't care if you don't believe anything I said for the last hour or whatever the time frame is. Just go out and commit, because if we go out and do that and we double it every day, it's not going to be long before we've
The
impacted
ripple effect.
everybody, right?
Yes.
Everybody in the world. It's like, do you want $1 million or do you want a penny doubled every day? Well, I want the penny doubled every day, and that's the same thing. We can roll out that kindness to people, and it's simple for us, but if we don't spread that message, whether it's us or others, it's never going to get out there. So we have to keep beating that positive drum and be vulnerable, be authentic, and commit those intentional acts of kindness.
And understand, you may never know what's happening at the end of those ripples or the effect that it's happening. You're quintessentially spending yourself without not knowing what any of the results are going to be. And every now and again, you get something come back and that says, this changed my life, this saved my life, this did this and that, which is wonderful. But most of the time, you're putting it out there with loving intention and you don't see that ripple, where it goes and the effect that it has. You just have to trust, because you've done it in positivity, that it will be positively beautiful as it ripples out.
Yeah, and I've been places like, at events or party or something, and someone will say, "Yeah, I really enjoyed your post the other day," and it's like, if they don't like comment or like it, you don't know. But you're exactly right, that you only see the however many people, but beyond that, who it might impact and who it might lift up at the right moment. I had a friend of mine who's battling cancer, and he's a couple of different times he said, "Boy, your post really helped me get through my chemo today." And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's
huge.
And that doesn't happen all the time, but
No.
it makes you feel so wonderful inside, for what you're trying to do, that it ripples out that far.
And people talk about the number game, numbers, business, numbers, or networking and the amount of people that follow you and all of that. And I love numerology, so I follow those numbers. But I feel, you've got to be that number one that resonates out and invites number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's not about how many people are following you or how many people are adoring you. It's how many people have you had an impact on. And you may never know, and maybe you do know now and again, and that is really validating. Yes, it's not the ego, it's just knowing you're on the right track. I've been doing this 10 years now, and I love what I'm doing. This is certainly my calling. I've really had quite an interesting journey getting here, which just finished my draft of my memoir, which was hard to write. But the journey in getting here and doing this is where I was always meant to be. But I had to wait for things like internet and podcasts, and for me to have the cosmic 2x4 to find my path here. Right. And there's 3,000 shows up there now. I've done about 2,800 of them. And I have had 2,800 of extraordinary people, ordinary people doing extraordinary things and having such an impact on everyone else. And I'm an advocate, whether it's my podcast, if I'm not your cup of tea, that's fine. But other people's podcasts, choose to listen. Choose to listen to the people that have journeyed before you. Not the rahs, I'll make you $1 million in a week. No, they're still on a different plane. But the people have said, I've struggled. I had cancer. I was abused. I lost everything. I had the cosmic 2x4 4 times. But I got back up, and this is the process that I took to where I am now, and I've never been happier or more meaningful, purposeful. Don't you want to hear from those people? Because where they are today is entirely in their truth, their authenticity, the beauty of who they are, but they were willing to take the journey to get there.
Yes.
That's self-discovery.
I love the cosmic 2x4 reference, because I had that happen to me. One of my he was a coach, but now he's more of a friend and a mentor. And he was asking me one day, we were on a Zoom call just like this, and he said, Todd, tell me about some of the things you've accomplished. So I started telling him a few things, and I was real, Midwestern, blue collar, roll up your sleeve, humble. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, shut up. And I was like, what? He goes, Todd, you have no belief system. When you talk about what you do, you have to be, again, not braggadocious
Right.
about it, but you have to be confident and firm and strong about it, because you've accomplished great things. So has Sarah. So, so have all these other people. And that belief system that exudes,
The
you're
passion,
inside who you are,
passion of you are.
and it
Yes.
gets those ripples
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
help other people. Yeah,
Yes.
that was a great call. I still remember
Yes.
that like it happened yesterday.
And those are those pivotal moments. And you never know when you choose to listen to a podcast, maybe there's one thing that's being said here today becomes a light bulb moment and it's pivoted you a fraction of an inch or a yard or a mile. But it's just that crack in a belief system you have to make you look at something in a different way. And if you're willing to look at it in a different way and then open your eyes and go, oh, if I see this differently, what else do I see differently? And you're willing to be what human nature is, exploratory, be adventurous, be inquisitive, and take the journey of that self-discovery of how much more you really are and how limited you've allowed society to keep you down.
Well, that moment, that pivotal moment, one of them happened to me about 5 years ago. John Maxwell runs a program called Live to Lead, where he has a handful of nationally or internationally known, in some cases, speakers. And I was on there and I heard John talking about, he was turning 70 that year, I think. And he said, well, I haven't accomplished much in my life. Well, if you know John Maxwell, he accomplished more in his 1 year of his life than many of us do in our entire lives. But that really impacted me. Like at age 70, excuse me, he's not done yet.
No.
And then the other thing was, he's been taking teams into Paraguay, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and training leaders to train leaders in those countries. And I'm like, this is what I need. This is what I needed to hear. This is where I needed to be. And then from there, I continued learning more and more about him. And you talked about it when you introduced me. But those pivotal moments when you hear that message, and it kind of, I love that cosmic 2x4. Hits you on the side of the head nicely.
But are you awake now?
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
So
what
that
you're
happened
talking
at
about
the
is the inspiration that begot the invitation to you.
right.
You were so inspired by him, it invited you to want to seek out what he was doing because you resonated with it. It hit the button of your own calling. That's really what it's about, isn't it? When that somebody inspires you. Oh, I mean, when I started this, when I was asked to start to do podcasts, I was with another network. And she said, oh, I've read your articles. And actually, I had written an article on depression because I do suffer from that. And I had invested everything I owned in a new digital electric motor that was stolen from us. And I lost everything, literally living out of my car. And it was like, but the message for me to do this motor was so strong. I didn't understand why. Was I misreading the message? All along, it wasn't about the motor. It was what catalyst would come from the motor for this person that I was backing. And it was for me to be going on this journey. So she asked me to join her podcast network. And I said, what's a podcast? I didn't even know back then. And I did it live for 13 months. I call it the soap opera training. With people dropping in the middle of the call or not turning up or this or that, everything going wrong. And you had to be in the moment because it's live. And then I started my own network just over 9 years ago. The people I have met that have illuminated my life, but I realized there have also been my nurturing, my coaching, my psychologist and everything else along the way of what I've discovered about myself through the journeys of others. And in writing my book, I realized how totally different I am to the person I was 10 years ago. And if we're willing to explore, to try something different, I didn't know if I could do podcasting. The first 5 years I only did audio. My friend said, "You've got to do video, Sarah. Let's do video." And I go, "Who wants to watch this old bag?" And then another voice in the back of my head said, "But it's not about you. It's about the content."
Yeah.
Right? And if people don't want to watch the old bag, they can listen.
Creating those ripples.
Yes. But this is the thing when, this is my calling and meaningful purpose, you're in yours. And you never know when it's going to come about, but be willing to explore.
Right.
And don't say, "Well, I don't know if I can do it." You don't know until you try. Give it a try.
Get out of that comfort zone.
Yes.
Get out of that comfort zone. Stretch yourself. One of my favorite quotes too is, the biggest gap in life is between what we know and what we do.
Yes.
Because there's no reason we all couldn't be millionaires. We all know what we need to do to get there.
I'm
But it's
still
just a matter
working on that one.
of doing it. Yeah, well, yeah. But executing is
Yeah.
the whole different thing.
I call it actionism. Activism is
Yeah.
talking about it. Actionism is doing something about it.
Yeah.
All right. And again, for me, I feel very enriched and abundant in the work that I do. The people like you that I get to meet, it hasn't matched my bank account, but I am provided.
Yep.
Right. And if one day it expands, great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I know that I couldn't stop doing what I'm doing. And
I feel exactly
you're
the
on
same
that
way.
path now, right? You can't
I
stop.
feel exactly.
You can't stop
Yep.
it. No. You're where you're meant to be, doing what you're meant to be doing. And you
Yeah,
will
people
grow
say,
and diverse out, but this will be it.
yeah, people say, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, I don't
No,
plan on it.
no.
I may do less maybe, but
Yes.
I don't plan on ever retiring until I'm, made to retire.
Yes.
I really enjoy this work, and as long as I can do it and do it, represent myself well, I'll continue to do it, because I know that that ripple effect is there, and I'm impacting people. Sometimes, like we talked about before, even those I'll never see in my life.
Yes.
There are people out there that I've most likely impacted. So that keeps me going.
But why should you put a stop to the abundance of wisdom that you have learned through life experience? This is
Right.
the nugget time, right? And the youngest person I've interviewed was 10, who'd written a book, 365 Days of Gratitude with a Positive Attitude.
Oh
And it
my.
was simple, like, if you're unhappy, go and stop doing that and do something else that makes you happy. Duh. And then the oldest person was 91, who a year and a half before had taken on a new lover and started a TV show. Right. So,
Oh my gosh.
I'm turning 68 this year. So it's not over until it's over.
Right.
Right. And if you love it and you really feel that you're having an impact and you're passionate about it, it will get you up in the morning to keep doing it.
Yes.
And that's where the abundance is and the true enrichment is, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What programs do you have for people?
Well, I'm hosting a Live to Lead. As being part of the Maxwell team, we're allowed to buy the rights to host it. So I'm hosting one in my community. Actually, people can join it virtually from all over the world. I have another session where they can do it live, and then also people can bring it in. I can bring it into their business as well. So I'm really excited about that, because it feels like John's impact on me now is coming full circle, where I can now take one of his tools and use that to spread my ripples. Also doing a lot I'm working with another gentleman on a leadership academy. And I really like this because it really talks a lot about what we've talking about. First of all, is developing yourself from the inside out, developing you, then developing the leader, then helping you develop your team. So it's really, and it's not a can training at all. It's very interactive, and it can be done virtually, which is nice too now when you look at larger companies.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of projects that I'm excited about right now.
And this is the beauty of this technology, and especially where before it was just a little Zoom call and people were calling parents, and then what the pandemic has done has made it a really comprehensive tool that we realize that you can reach so much more, more people through doing it, and it opens the door for so many people that, well, I can't go there because the cost of flying there and this and that or whatever, and now I can join. through a Zoom, or I can see the benefit afterwards. And it opens up people's possibilities, which is wonderful. But I really do like the approach that you're taking, is like, who are you? Why are you? What is your instrument? How to play it. Be the leader in your own life so you can aspire leadership and recognize leadership in others. And that's really what it's about, isn't it?
Boy, that was so well said. I'm going to shut up because that was so well said. I don't want to mess that up. This has been a great joy. I can't believe we've been on. I don't know how long. Or over
I don't
an hour,
know either. This is one of my problems. My shows go on, but that's too much good nuggets having to come out. How
It's
do
been
people
awesome.
get hold of you? What's your site, and what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Well, you take my first name and last name, toddkuckkahn.com.
Can
And
you
that's my
spell it out?
ToddKuckhn. I've had to spell that a few times in my life. But toddkuckkahn.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. You can connect those ways as well. And look forward to hearing from people.
So people go to the site, they can see what you're doing. If they're wanting to sign up or they're wanting to book you, they can find you all there.
Absolutely.
What is the origins of your name?
It's German.
Ah, I've not ever heard that name before. Very unusual.
It is unique. Like I said, I've had to spell it and sound it out a few. You pronounced it beautifully at the beginning. I was very humbled.
Believe me, I don't always do that well. I'm a dyslexic, so sometimes I reverse letters. So
it was beautiful.
This has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much. And I really am happy that you're taking this path, because the business world, whether there's somebody's a solopreneur, small team, or really having to reconstruct an entire corporation, this whole philosophy, which is really what you're teaching, is a philosophy of everybody bringing their own beautiful, unique instrument to the orchestra of life, is going to make business so much better. Back to people, planet before profit. And when you invest in the people, you invest in the planet and its beautiful resources and respect, you will make the profit, because people will want to do business with you. And it's not one size fits all. Throw that out, right? It's your vibe, your authenticity, the essence of who you are is what will draw people to want to do business with you. And if they don't feel your essence, why do you want them?
Absolutely right. And Sarah, keep doing what you're doing. Keep spreading your message and bringing people on. It was a joy, and I've learned a lot myself about myself and through you about myself. So I really appreciate that and respect that a great deal.
Well, I love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much. So folks, remember that whoever you are, whatever you're doing in life, it is about being true to who you are, why you are, and what you're doing. And that will always precede you and make people want to open up to you and want to do business with you, or just simply know you. So until next time, be kind to yourself. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or self-discoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon, and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.